Strange spill sparks sticky situation, hellish heat bed hurls hot havoc, and print pops loose with the Snapmaker sending it spinning from deep within the Cheyenne Mountains. All this and more, Print Fix Friday, episode 220. We're in Prague. I thought it'd be fun to film one on location. Let's get into it. Starting off here with an interesting failure from the Bambu Lab subreddit. We've got an X1 Carbon here. An individual just took over as a print farm manager with a bunch of Bambu Lab 3D printers. And well, they've got a weird substance on the build plate. We can see that it's causing some level of rust or corrosion, and just overall, it's kinda gross. Looking at it, it ends up being copper colored, which to me screams rust, and more rust, because I'm almost positive that this is the AMS desiccant packs leaking. So for those of you that don't know, the Bambu Lab AMS1 comes with desiccant packs. Those desiccant packs over time will turn into fluid. Basically, they're not designed to be running all the time. They're designed to be refreshed. And if you don't refresh them, they start to kind of degrade. And it's why we've always recommended, if you are going to use an AMS or something of the sort, that you use your own desiccant system and not rely on the one the manufacturer gives you, or at least change out theirs with known good desiccant that is not going to leak. The likelihood here is that the desiccant leaked onto the build plate, which is a highly corrosive substance, touched the build plate, which caused it to start rusting because the build plates are spring steel. But this has also gone even farther down to the magnetic sheet on the machine itself, which tells me it's time for new beds, for new build plates. It's time for a bit of maintenance. These machines are clearly without maintenance for a long time, and you don't want that. You want to make sure that your machines stay clean and safe. And if we look, this is, I think, this is without the magnetic plate on the bed. We just see the bare bed here, and it has definitely been damaged from levels of rust, corrosion, and things like that. So unless you happen to be running a print farm in the middle of the ocean and decide to clean your build plates with seawater, I think that what we have here is the corrosive substance from the AMS desiccant packs leaking onto the build plate itself. There is no easy way to fix this. The best thing, in my opinion, would be to replace the bed outright. Normally, if you were a consumer, I might tell you to try to clean it up the best you can, apply a new magnetic sticker, and move on. But as a print farm, you have to maintain consistency. In the business world, consistency is really what matters. And without that consistency, and without that, from machine to machine part reliability, you run into issues where you might have some machines that are more temperamental than others. And, well, it's a business. It can afford to, fix its own mistakes. And this leaves us with the big question of who was taking care of this print farm, and more specifically, who was taking care of this print farm, because nowhere near enough maintenance has been done if this is the state of your magnetic print sheet. I am surprised this machine is even running in somewhat operable condition because of how bad the actual magnetic sticker looks. There's rust everywhere. Replace the parts. Thankfully, so far as of recording this video, Bambu is still providing replacement parts for the X1 Carbon, but they are end-of-lifing it relatively soon, like mid next year. So those of you that do own X1 Carbons or any of the P1 series, I believe those are getting end-of-lifed as well, make sure that you have enough spare parts to last you through a few years, because at some point, these parts will no longer be available from the manufacturer. And because of that, you're gonna end up potentially getting stuck with having to buy a whole nother machine just to pull parts from. It's a bit of a bummer, honestly. I'm not a huge fan of that, but hey, that's what companies do. In my opinion, the best way to avoid this would be to get rid of the desiccant packs from any of the other machines that have them. If you have a Bambu Lab AMS1 and you have torn open the desiccant pack, get rid of it. Make sure that you dispose of it properly. It is corrosive, so please make sure you dispose of it properly. But then you can add in your own desiccant packs into the AMS, or you can look at getting like a Tetris or a Dies system from Ibos, and I believe Sunlu now has one too, which are just heaters for your AMS, with the Tetris being 4 individual chambers and the Dies being 2 individual chambers for the AMS, so you can have up to 4 different materials at 4 different temperatures. Desiccant is not to like actually dry filament, it's to maintain a slightly drier environment and to deal with some of the ambient moisture. You are not going to suck moisture out of filament with desiccant, but a heating system works way better, and quite frankly, I don't see a point in really doing it any other way unless you are budget constrained. And if you are budget constrained, stick with desiccant packs, or hey, just get an individual dryer and don't worry about it too much. And moisture is not the largest cause of failure like a lot of people seem for it to be. I would know. I live in Florida, and while it is kind of snowing outside right now here in Prague, it is -1 degree Celsius right now. I am inside where the radiator is sitting right behind me, so I am nice and warm. But speaking of being what one might call a chili pepper, my name is Grant. This is 3D Musketeers at PrintFixFriday, where we help you get your printers back to printing with purpose. And if you are going through any issues with your machines, you can reach out to us via the social media channels, or our preferred way, which is to film a video, post it to YouTube, and tag us in the description so we get notified of it. And we can show it on the channel, reply to you directly, and help you get your machines running right. Because the last thing we want is to see bamboo build plates with rust on them like we see here. You definitely don't want that on your machines. Next up, a interesting one. A screenshot was posted in our Patreon Discord, which you can join at the $10 tier and higher via the links down below, of a rat rig here with a Kenovo 380 square silicone heating mat on it, which, to be clear, Kenovo makes, or Kenovo, I'm probably saying it wrong, makes some of the best heating pads in the world. In fact, I've been using them for years when we build 3D printers at the shop, but this one is a bit of an issue, and we can see that we are missing something very, very important. If you are going to build a 3D printer and you are going to use a silicone heating pad and you are going to put on an insulative layer like we see here, which is like a neoprene with a aluminum foil backing to it, you need to make sure that you have a thermal fuse. It could be a one-time fuse, it can be a resettable fuse. I don't particularly care, but it should not, under any circumstances, be running without a thermal fuse. And as far as I can tell, that is what's happened here. This machine has not had a thermal fuse on it. It has had a thermal runaway incident, and well, she's gotten a little charred. Now we can specifically see that it did potentially short out here, so I'm not certain if maybe there was a cut in the pad, or maybe it was rubbed somehow in a way that we had an electrical short to the aluminum plate below it. I'm not exactly certain. I know a thermal fuse would help here, but I'm not certain exactly what caused the issue. Something to note with MOSFETs, any MOSFET, they fail latched. So if you're using like an SSR or you're using a MOSFET system for your build plates for the heater so you can run them on AC power, note that if the MOSFETs fail or the SSR fails, it will fail in the on position. So as soon as you plug your machine in, the bed will begin to heat uncontrollably. And having a thermal fuse in there, whether it's resettable or not, is a phenomenal way to protect your investment of your printer. Machines should be coming with these, whether they are kits or they are assembled from a factory, because without it, you have a serious risk of fire. Because SSRs and MOSFETs failing, while not a guarantee, is certainly something that is a little bit more likely to occur than one of the trains below falling off the tracks. This isn't the bright line, they actually have public transit figured out here. And speaking of out here, we need to catch a flight because we are heading deep into the Cheyenne Mountains to hang out with a now buddy of ours, Dia de la Toalla, a Argentinian YouTuber who I would like to say is an honorary Florida man, even though I'm not certain he's ever visited Florida. But we're gonna go check out what he's up to. He's got a Snapmaker U1, and it's given him a bit of issues. Let's go see what's going on there. So this one's a little bit weird. We are here deep in the Cheyenne Mountains with Dia de la Toalla here, a wonderful Argentinian YouTuber who you should go subscribe to, but also a bona fide and certified Florida man.
Yes.
His next project will be printing on an alligator, and if that doesn't make any sense to you, go check out his channel. He just had us check out the brand new Snapmaker U1 that he picked up over at Formnext, and this is a print that he ran the other day. This is well, it was an Axolotl, and now it's an Axolitl. We've got a shift here on the parts. We have a good part versus U. That is the part she tells you not to worry about. But when we flip it over, as one does, we can clearly see what's going on here. We've got a first layer that is way too far away versus what we got here. We've got lines in between the first layer itself, where realistically you shouldn't see the actual like extrusion lines. That's not how you would want to see this for a 3D printer. So what happened is at some point during the print, two different options. One, delaminated and started to move a little bit, or what is probably more likely, the head contacted with a point somewhere and knocked it off a little bit. And at that point, it appears the tail still stuck quite well, but the body was wiggling back and forth quite a bit. And that makes sense because if we look, the tail pieces where the yellow is look beautiful. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the red doesn't. But yeah, it's printed in two pieces, two colors. No, well, three colors.
Yeah, so what I found interesting is when I took it from the build plate, it seemed like it was stuck.
Yeah, it seemed like it was stuck.
But we had this layer shifting without layer shifting on the head.
Right.
So I checked the time lapse, and you see, like Grant said, this was wiggling like that, like this.
Then it happens. It just means number 5 is alive, obviously. But yeah, it's just that the first layer was too far away.
This is the standard profile in Snapmaker Orca, with the first layer at 0.25, and this is at 0.18.
So traditionally, that actually doesn't have as much of an impact as you may think. So your first layer height doesn't have anything to do with how close the machine itself gets to the build plate. It just has to do with how thick that layer is. Traditionally, the thicker the first layer, the stronger that will be, but you have to be the right distance from the build plate. It just looks like it didn't level properly. And this machine does an 11 by 11 probing sequence, so it does take some time. And because this is a load cell, if there was anything on the nozzle, on the build plate, that can mess up where that trigger point is. And it's one of the downsides of the load cell based nozzle probing.
Yeah.
I like the eddy current sensors, like using a beacon, but they're very expensive.
Did you get to try the Creality CR6?
No.
Okay, that was the first one I tried with this.
Oh, with the boot thing, yeah.
Yeah, without the BL touch.
Right.
And it was awful.
Yes.
But then at some point they got good.
It's because they got rid of the springs. The original CR6, it was CR6 SE, I assume?
Yes.
Yeah, so that still had bed springs.
Okay.
So if the load cell wasn't accurate enough, it would push down, the bed spring would compress a little bit until the load cell triggered. Well, now it's much lower than it should have been.
Okay, okay.
Load cells are tricky, and you have to be very careful about how you implement them. Thankfully, we've come a long way since the CR6 SE. And you know, you have machines like this Snapmaker U1, which if you want to see our first impressions on it, you guys can check it out. We'll card to it so you can take a look. And if you are a channel member, we will be releasing a special Making Sawsome episode where we try some wonderful Argentinian food, including dulce de leche, don sator, and mate. For you guys so you can check it out. But yeah, it's always fun to do a PrintFixFriday in person because you get to really look at the parts and show them off, and it's not just me looking at photos on my computer. But you know, otherwise, it actually did a pretty decent job right up until the point that it didn't.
Yeah. And in a piece like this, you can't add like a brim or
No.
something.
No, yeah.
It defeats the purpose.
Can you imagine peeling the brim on every single one of those little parts?
I see a lot of reels on Instagram of people using raft for this kind of prints. And I find that crazy.
So do you know why we have rafts? You remember?
Because you don't have hairspray that works with your... Is that the reason?
Back in the day, ABS was the most affordable material to use. It was the
Yeah.
only thing you could get for under $60 a kilo.
Wow.
US dollars a kilo. That's a lot of money. So we didn't have heated beds. ABS warps like crazy.
Yeah.
And so what you did is your raft was your sacrificial part that you knew was going to warp. You made it thick enough so it would just warp on the edges. You made it much wider than your main part, and then you would just peel your part off. A raft for that is actually a decent idea, but I think tuning your printer is a better idea.
But that I could take that 10 years ago.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Now we have PEA sheets, and we have spray to put on the sheet and stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of options now that make it a little bit easier. And please clean your bed. Wipe it with Windex. I know a lot of people think alcohol, isopropyl alcohol. I say an ammonia-based glass cleaner is better. Isopropyl alcohol does not get rid of the oils on your grubby fingers. Instead, it just moves it around. An ammonia-based glass cleaner like Windex removes the oil. That's why it gets rid of the streaking on a window.
Yeah.
It removes the oil from you touching the damn windows. It does the same thing for your build plates, and it is compatible with every build plate that I'm aware of. It's cheap, it's easy, it's non-volatile, and it's safe.
And you can find it anywhere.
Go check out Franco's channel. We'll link to it down below. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. This is what happens when we film deep in the Cheyenne Mountains. And if you guys want to check out any of the other videos, make sure to stay tuned because they're coming out. I've always liked traveling, and the Cheyenne Mountains are quite lovely, but it's time to get back to fixing failures here. We've got an Anet A8 where literally the entire hot end has fallen off the machine. Take a look at these photos here. We can see that the threads on the I think it's a Mark 6 hot end here, have totally failed. Like it's broken off physically. And because of that, well, it created a blob of doom, yada yada. TLDR, this machine is dangerous, you should not be using it, and this is just the start of problems that Anets can have. Something you need to note about the Anet A8, they are dangerous. Do not use the Anet A8 unless you have and know exactly how to fix the thermal runaway issues on those machines. So please be careful with the Anets because they can and are dangerous if you haven't made any of the upgrades. If you have made the upgrades to make it safe, we can move on to actually fixing the real problem here, which is the hot end failed. This is a really easy thing to fix, and I'm not even certain if they sell those PTFE lined heat breaks anymore. And if they do, great, just flat out replace it. You thankfully have a couple of threads hanging down from the bottom of the hot end there, which means potentially and hopefully you will be able to grab it with a pair of pliers and actually unscrew it. If you can do that, then replacing it is as simple as just screwing in a new one. If you can't do that, well, this process gets a lot more complicated, and it will likely require you to completely disassemble the extruder and try as much as you can to remove that broken part. I would assume the heat block is also damaged, and hey, while you're at it, just replace the nozzle too. There's no reason not to. But remember, with hot ends like this that use a fully threaded tube with PTFE inside it, one, do not go over 252 degrees Celsius because you will start to off-gas some really nasty things, because when PTFE does degrade, it degrades really bad, especially if you have birds. Please do not print high temp around birds. The whole canary in a mine shaft thing, it's like that for a reason. Birds are hypersensitive to things in the air, and when the canary stops making noise, it's time to get out of the mine shaft. And if you're gonna do this at this point, you might as well just put on an all-metal hot end upgrade to the machine. They were not very expensive back in the days of the Anet A8, so I assume you can likely still find the parts for them available on Amazon. Go take a look and see what you can find. But realistically, it is an Anet A8, and I think that for a couple $100 in most countries, you can get a much nicer 3D printer that will be much safer in the long run. I recognize that not everybody has that level of available cash flow, and that means we have to work on a budget. That's why we tried to solve the problem before we said, hey, just go buy a new printer, because that's not always the right solution. It is a solution, it is not always the right one, and we try to provide as many solutions as we can here on the 3D Musketeers YouTube channel. If you guys do enjoy videos like this, please make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and things like that. And a huge thank you goes out to all of our channel member supporters whose names are listed right next to me at the $5 tier and higher. Thank you for what you all do in making videos like these possible, where we're doing them like this is a real background. This is not fake. I am sitting in an Airbnb in Prague. It is pretty awesome. If you do want to see more behind the scenes, you can join for as little as $1 a month, where we have lots of behind the scenes content, including things that are coming out in just a couple of days. So stay tuned for that content. But that is all I have for you all today. Stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. Stay warm. It is so freaking cold outside. At least here. It's very warm in Florida. Take care.
Make sure to stay tuned because they're coming out.
Done and done.
Great job.
Right at the
That is crispy.
All of that power.
Whoa.
No chance.
Yep, 100%.
This is the
You think so?
Yep, 100% think it's gone.
It said it had 3.5 hours.
And this didn't finish.